All right, we're really going to test my French skills here. The Ontario public grade school and Catholic high school French. Don't fail me now. Let's go. Onze by Lazuli or Lazuli, because I've been corrected. It's either Lazuli or Lazuli. I don't know. So Lazuli is a French progressive rock band. They're kind of being categorized as eclectic prog. I would kind of consider them more like, I don't know, contemporary, kind of bordering on neo-prog in that sense. They got started in the late 90s with their self-titled debut album, and kind of, I think, wavered for the first handful of records. And it wasn't for me until their sixth record of Tant que l'herbe est grise, I believe is how you pronounce it. As I mentioned, their sixth studio album that I really, really loved. Now, their first album that I heard from them was their eighth studio album, Saison 8, that I really kind of like was catching what they were putting down. But their 2020 album of La Fantastique Envol de Didorbom was incredible. Like, it really put them on the map. And I mean, it only took 9 albums to do. Now, according to the PROG archives, this is their 10th album, even though it's being called 11. So I don't know if it's really their 11th album, or if they kind of consider it their, I don't know if I'm missing an album kind of somewhere in the mix. But what I love about these guys and why I was really looking forward to it was each album from them, I felt like they were really maturing and really developing their sound. I mean, these guys have been around for 20 years at this point, if you can believe it. And each record really developed and really honed the sound that they were playing with. Starting with Tant, and continuing on with Saison 8 and Didorbom. And I was loving all of their development. You know, they were reminding me of some of the more cutting edge of prog, bands like Wobbler, kind of like Carfagan, but being a lot more direct and a lot more synthesized. I love that more symphonic sound that they were playing with in and around these more experimental sounds and experimental, sometimes even instruments in that sense. And Onze, I feel as though, is the first album from them in a while that kind of takes a little bit of a step back. It's a little bit more on the mellow side, where Didorbom, Saison 8, and Tant que, I felt like they were much more, like, there was a bit of a sharpness to it. Like, the guitars were much more beefy. They had this really shrill sound to them. Again, had really good and gripping teeth to it. This one, I'm not as excited about it. And I think part of that is that the secondary guitarist, or I guess lead guitarist, has been changed over. We now have Anard Bernie, I believe is how you pronounce his name, replacing Jaderick Breyer. And I know I've probably put way too much of an English accent on that. But Arnaud does a good job at creating atmosphere and creating like feels, but not as great of a center stage guitarist as Breyer was. Breyer was able to like really command the attention, really grab hold of you and not let go. And I'm not saying that Anard doesn't do that. I'm just saying it's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more subdued. It's a lot more in atmosphere in that sense. So getting into like the nitty gritties of this record, the first 2 tracks are very, very catchy and very like apparent right from the beginning. And I was really excited with what I was hearing. I was getting flavors of like Radiohead from OK Computer or The Bends in their providing a little bit more menacing. It was a little darker. There was a lot more like shadows going on within this. It was a lot more atmospheric and moody in that sense. And I really liked kind of this direction that they were playing with, especially with Dieter Balm and Saison 8 being a lot more vibrant, a lot more colorful, a lot more like exciting and big sounding. This one is darker with a lot of neon kind of a feeling to it. Getting a little bit more into the modern neo-prog with kind of like more mellow Marillion in that sense. And you can definitely feel that with a lot more of the smaller tracks on here. Like the fourth track might be one of my favorites on here because of how slow it starts off, but then slowly allows itself to build and allows itself to build. And the more it builds, the grander the scale. I do wish there was like a really satisfying crescendo, because this track is only about 5.5 minutes. I wish that they had kind of pushed the envelope into maybe the 6 or 7 minute mark to really allow this track to really grow. It's the back half catalog, after about maybe the 6th track on here, that my mind slowly starts to wander and it's a little bit harder to stay invested in this album. By the 9th, 10th, and 11th track, my brain is kind of already looking forward to whatever I'm going to listen to next. And it doesn't have that kind of stay power that first handful of tracks do. So I was a little disappointed by the end point of this album, but, at no point did I ever feel like I was rushing to turn it off. So yeah, it was, I kind of wish that they stuck the landing a little bit more with what they were putting down. If they wanted to be a little bit more moody, a little bit more, brash in that sense. I just want a little bit more teeth, a little bit more oomph on there. What I got was a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more, playing with styles, and not quite enough real substance for me to sink my teeth into. So this is one that I unfortunately won't be returning to quite as much as their past discography, like Dieter Balm or Saison 8, or I always want to call it, it's such a crazy album title, and I know it's all in French, but Teint Coup, I believe is how I usually pronounce it. As it is, I will still say that Onze by Lazuli, is still one that I would ultimately stream. If you're new to Lazuli, this is a great place to start, even though I would probably recommend starting off with Dieter Balm or Teint Coup. And Saison 8 is also really good if you want to get into it. But yeah, it's not really anything to write home about, really. I would start with those other 3 albums first, and then once you kind of digested it, give this one a try. I think the thing that really kind of hurts me the most about this album is that those first 4 tracks are so fun and so enjoyable, and I really love what they're kind of putting down. I just really wish that they had stuck the landing, and that's kind of they tripped over themselves when they were finishing this one off, and that's kind of, for me, what kind of hurts a little bit. But that's what I've got to say about Onze by Lazuli. What did you guys think about this album and this band? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. Because that's all I got for you guys today. That's all I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.